All right, I believe we're live. If you're here, and I'm the video is 5 minutes early, so we're going to give everybody a few minutes to show up for those that wish to join us. Now, I want to make clear before we get the video started, my videos are unscripted, unedited. This is how I prefer things, okay? If you prefer a higher level of professionalism, you may visit the many people that are not consultants and they'll entertain you, okay? There are lots of fabulous entertainers. They do party clowns, children parties, and stuff like that. Here, we try to address factual issues. And if by virtue of my own sense of humor, we arrive at something that's entertaining, then that's good, right? So please, no complaining. I have better things to do than sit around here and put sparkles in my video. People need housing and vouchers, not to be entertained like a circus clown. All right, moving on from there. So I'll do a few introductions. My name is Jay. I'm the owner of Section8Consulting.com. I'm probably very well known throughout the nation for assisting people with housing, vouchers, homeownership, those that are landlords that need assistance with tenants, and dealing with complicated issues related to housing authorities, HUD, court cases, witness work, working with nonprofits, social workers, and so on. They need a better fundamental understanding. So my reach is pretty broad. Everything that is related to federal programs under Section 8 is what I am an expert at. I'm not now there's many areas we get outside of that into legal, loans, financial assets, and all that, where it's not going to be so much. That being said, I have put some information down there. If you have serious questions or you need assistance with your own case, whether seeking a voucher or housing, or you want to participate in a HUD homeownership program, you can reach out to our company. It is not free, but the service is certainly there for those that lack the time or understanding. That all being said, good morning and welcome everybody. And this is a live video. You may chat with me as we go. I will take incremental breaks so you can ask questions if you feel that you need to do so. So the first realistic concept we need to understand is we know what HUD homeownership program is. Now, you guys call a lot of different things, right? Section 8, owning a Section 8, use my voucher to buy a house program. But it's really just called HUD homeownership program. And that program was rolled out many decades ago. It reached its peak in 2000. And since then, the program has been drawn back through probably a they have poorly taught people regarding the program. So in other words, a lot of people had a lack of understanding what it is, what it does, how it works, how to get it. And of course, the tears and misery of dealing with housing authorities that will offer you, say they offer one thing, but yet will battle you the whole way. So the goal here is to kind of unwind that. And for those of you that are very serious, I want to make very clear, this is not a situation where you're going to take your voucher out your wallet or your purse, walk into a bank and say, give me a house. Okay, let's not act ignorant. This is a situation that involves a lot of training, understanding, you following through, good finances. Okay, credit needs to be right to a certain degree. And then you go through a process over months and months and months. And only those of you that have the fortitude and discipline will be able to participate and get this done. For those that are out there just seeking what they can get just for fun, they like to collect food stamp cards, welfare, and everything else. This is not something you're going to be able to collect. You know, this requires time, energy, and some intelligence. But I also want to lower this bar a little bit, okay? Those of you that may have fixed incomes, this is for you. If you're a senior and you're on a fixed income, this is for you. If you're disabled and you're suffering from bipolar or schizophrenia, this is still for you, okay? This is for people that have the right attitude. And this is for people that want to follow through. So, all right, that being said, now that I've given all those great warnings, back to 2000. So the program has been drawn back. And so not every housing authority in every state and every county offer this. You first must establish where you live and whether or not your local housing authority would even offer this. To this date, there is not a national list. I wish there were. I've tried tracking it, but that's a perilous activity considering there's 2,800 housing authorities. HUD itself may have a list, but they certainly have not published it publicly. So I would say the first goal for those that want to entertain this idea is see if it's even possible in the county or state in which you live in. I see a few questions here, so we're going to keep taking breaks. It'll be a little bit annoying. I've tried both formats where I speak for an hour, then y'all ask questions, get annoyed that way. Then we stop and start. Some of you get annoyed. There's no pleasing everybody, so we're just going to stop and start as we teach here a bit. It's going to be a little bit of a video. And again, this isn't designed to be an intro video, an introduction. If you want to get into hardcore questions and answers, join me on the same day at the same time this morning next week. And for those that want the high technicals, we'll get down real good on that. Today, I want to give introductions. That way I can weed out those that have wants and those that have needs. If you have a need, this is appropriate. If this is just another want, then it's not. All right. Good morning, Cheryl, and thank you for thanking me, Ryan. And is this the same thing as Family Self-Sufficiency Program? Yes, you must. Now, let's make it clarity. And you know what, Cheryl? I'm going to speak on that. I don't want to do it just yet, but in some ways it is and cooperates with family sufficiency. We'll get into that here in a minute. DJ, my PHA does not have HCV homeownership, even for disabled. I read in the statute that HUD Assistant Secretary can have contracts if PHA is unwilling. That is true, actually. It is true. You have to kind of lobby. If your housing authority doesn't have it, and again, I don't want to get too deep into lobbying of the housing authority, senators, and other to get it or force them or compel the housing authority to get into this program, but there's ways to do that, and maybe we'll address that if there's enough people that have a desire to hear about it. Lizzie, can we move to homeownership if we're in a lease? Okay. All right. You know what, guys? I think I'm going to start teaching. That will actually reduce the number of questions because as I'm teaching, a lot of these questions are going to come out. That way we don't go in illogical order. All right. So you first establish having your local housing authority housing. The second factor and criteria before anything must happen is you must possess a housing choice voucher. It doesn't matter what type. It doesn't matter if your voucher is funded by Section 811, 202, or any other subsections of federal code or Title 24, so long as you possess a housing choice voucher. Those that are in project-based housing, that's not a voucher, okay? Those that are in subsidies, that is not a voucher. Only those that have a request for tenancy voucher or housing choice voucher may participate, which is most people. Beyond that, you must have been established in the program for 12 months. So those that have received, your housing authority now has the program, you're confident that you're utilizing that voucher, you must participate for a minimum 12 months. So you must be a renter for a minimum of 12 months. Okay. And then second to that, we need to establish a income. There are income ratios. Some of you receive incomes that are too low and too high. Now, the reason I'm not going to get in that particular number is because that number would shift greatly depending on where you live. And so we would need to establish income limits for you, depending where you're in the country. Clearly in California, it'd be extraordinarily high, where if you were, say, in Jackson, Mississippi, it may be lower. Okay. So we consider now that the location, the offering, and the vouchers in place, you've established that you've been to renter for a minimum of 12 months. Now the fourth step, I believe, would be you reaching out to the PHA and notifying them of your wanting to participate in the HUD homeownership program. And here's where FFS or self-sufficiency program comes into place. So it is a self-sufficiency program that puts money in escrow. In other words, you have another person that holds the money. The bank keeps money in reserve that cannot be spent until the actual goal of which is to be met. It also means that there are two parties over that money holding it. So HUD homeownership program does work in collusion with self-sufficiency program. If you're already participating in the self-sufficiency program, then you should have direct access within 12 months. Now, the big sticky details, you guys, one thing I love about people are once they understand there's a chance to get this, they move directly past not wanting to know anything about how to get to a certain point. They skip directly to house shopping and loans. And so to go ahead and put the curve, go ahead and teach you a little more. Let's talk about what's required before you even start the window shopping for houses. Okay. So we've established that we meet all the criteria, the staple criteria. Um, I think at the next step, we look at the income. So then you're going to want to take your classes at the PHA or Public Housing Authority you're at. They're going to have classes. So why do we have to have classes? Do we really need to have little Mickey Mouse classes? Well, of course, because even those people that are not participating with vouchers out there buying houses, a lot of people get their ass in a jam with this stuff. Okay. There's another dollar in the swear jar. I know it. I tried. All right. So you're going to need to learn a lot about house ownership. Okay. And a lot of people believe, well, this is just kind of antagonizing me. I think I know what I'm getting into. Well, you don't. There's a lot of costs there. And so there's a lot of classes they're going to want to teach you to make sure that you're responsible to handle it. Otherwise, we end up in what happened worldwide, especially 2008. We have a housing crash because why? People are reaching out for subprime loans. They think they've got this. They think their job that they've got working wherever was going to cover things. And when things fell apart, all those subprime mortgages and people that did not have a consistent history of being responsible, all those mortgages failed, you see. And so we need to truly understand the fundamentals of what homeownership is, its maintenance responsibilities, the closing costs, and all the other associated fees, and what you're actually getting into and what you should be spending. It's easy to walk into a catalog of beautiful things. You go in being very modest. I'm just going to be reasonable. I'm just going to get the house that I need. And then if you're like most humans, including me, we start with the modest nonsense. And then immediately when we see the better options, I think we all kind of navigate to it. The only people that truly have good sense are those of you probably 55 and older that can resist the temptation to go from the modest home and not want to get up all the way to the customer bigger home. Okay. Why am I speaking such plain terms rather than regulatory talk right now? Is because I want to make sure that we're speaking to all audiences, not just those that are former engineers and doctors and things like that. I want to be able to speak to everybody in a basic terms. And this is an intro video. Again, if you want the facts and the meat of the situation, join me next week. All right. So it looks like we have a lot of comments rolling through. I'm going to go ahead and address those because I can see this is going to get intense. All right. So, Lizzie, can we move the home ownership if we're in a lease? So, let's reframe that, Lizzie. You got a voucher, you're in a lease. When you end that lease, you can move that voucher anywhere in the nation. And you can move that voucher to a housing authority in another state or another county where they offer it, and you can participate there. So, yes, if you have a housing choice voucher or you're participating in self-sufficiency program already, and you can't find it where you are, and you're willing to move somewhere else where the housing authority offers it, most certainly you can do that. I think that's the best way to answer that. All right, guys, I'm going to take a little bit of my energy drink here, and I'm going to tell y'all, many of you know, with me in my unscripted and unedited videos, I often inject a little of my life, and that's keep it a little bit fuzzy and spicy. Yesterday, I went to an aerobics class called Pure Bar. Now, I had no idea what I was really getting into regarding that, and so I thought it was just a bunch of ladies hanging around the mirrors in a square room and a ballet bar on the wall, right? So I get in there, and it was 55 minutes of terror for me. Clearly, I'm out of shape, and I've been losing weight and dieting, and it ends up out up there shaking like a leaf. It was 55 minutes meltdown, and I had to go home, lay down, sleep for 2 hours just to shake it off. So, you know what? I'll never make fun of you ladies out there that take these aerobics or other types of fitness classes because that's no joke. If it did that to me, then I feel that probably half the men on the planet would probably have failed miserably as well. That's tough. All right, taking a swig, and then we're going to move on to the HUD homeownership program rather than my personal horror stories. All right. JW, it looks like YouTube has retracted your comment. So either you've said something naughty or YouTube has perceived you saying something you shouldn't have, or there could be other reasons. So it isn't me. Melanie Page, hey, I made it. Miss Page, glad to have you. I know Miss Page has been very interested. Melanie, this will be our intro video, and we're going to continue to get further to the point. Deanna Dub, hi everyone, Florida here. I've been asking for information on the HUD homeownership program, but they will not even tell me where to start or provide me any information at all. Well, Deanna Dub, I'm sorry that you're facing that problem, and I think most people that also face that, housing authorities are widely known to be difficult to deal with. Their employees, at best, are rarely polite, should you say, and they don't really like to teach or educate on anything. For any of you, again, any of you that would like a professional conversation about the facts of the housing authority in relation to the HUD homeownership program, I'd tell you to reach out to my office. You can book an appointment. Yes, it costs money, but the thing of it is, I can actually work with clients to get you through the kind of the process and all the way to the end without all the nonsense. And if we can, or we have trouble from a housing authority, then we can use our attorney to force them or compel them under federal rules to cooperate. I don't think most of you would necessarily need to book an appointment for that, but for those that really want super concise answers, we certainly can address that. JW, meant to say Baltimore County does not offer EHB vouchers for DB. Well, that is kind of interesting. I guess with DB related issues, JW, what it sounds like they're offering some type of project based. And it looks like we have another count. Oh, sorry, that was JW. Now DJ goes on to say yoga is a better place to start. Well, I need to do some core training, and I need to strengthen the inner core of me before I actually get into the even worse aerobic stuff. So I just chose something on Google and picked it. JDLB goes on to say I retracted myself because I had left some words out. Okay, no problem. I just want to make sure. A lot of people, we have people that have mental health issues and they get on the channel. I think there's a conspiracy when their comments disappear. So I try to address that. Not everybody is on balance, and I'm okay with that. We're here to accommodate those of all spectrums and all issues. That's how it goes. So we established again, the HUD homeownership program must be an offering by your housing authority. You must be participating in the housing choice voucher. We've established incomes. A reasonable expectation of a commitment. You're taking and requesting that the housing authority allow you to take their classes. If they do that, you're entering the program at that point. If you have problems with them, you should probably reach out to my office, because if they're offering it but they're not wanting to do or say anything regarding their program, then there's lots of options we have at the federal level to address that housing authority to get them to cooperate. Okay. Now, once you take all the classes there that teach you about home ownerships, loans, and so on, what you're going to find is you're going to need to go down and we're going to discuss a list. I prepared a list here because there's so much content and so much to understand about all this that I had to actually create my own sheet so I didn't forget some of it. And we're going to discuss it now. So after you're dealing there, you will need to determine how much you can really afford regarding houses. One of the things important to understand is, one, most people are on a fixed income, okay? And there are some that have part-time jobs that include that. We'll need to determine, besides the income requirement, is looking at the amount of money you receive and how much of a house you can afford. Now, we all have big dreams, but for those that are on a small fixed income, and that's most people, how do we know what small and big fixed income is? Let me just tell you real quick. Those that receive, say, $400 to $900, that would be on the lower end. For those that receive $901 to about $1,500, you're in the medium range. And for those that receive a combined fixed income or other incomes exceeding 15 to 25, you're in the high end. And if you're above $2,500 a month between both, you're in the exceptional range, and that can go all the way up to around $3,500. So those price ranges will be able to afford you homes for as little as less than 100,000. Now, we must think that now you're probably thinking, well, what kind of house can I afford? Sometimes you're going to have to move to participate in the program because where you live isn't going to buy you much of a house or a house at all. So though you might qualify in your state to be able to purchase a home, if the state of New York don't sell homes in the range that they're offering, then somebody's going to make some tough decisions. That might be meaning moving out to the Midwest or the southern states. Why? Because 100, let me tell you something. You can buy a house in Arkansas for around 100K. That same house in California costs you 3 million. You see the problem with this, guys? And so while it's not ideal that somebody's 77 years old and wants to participate in the program, I'm not saying that it's not ideal because they're old or getting older. It's not ideal for them to leave their family. But if it means getting the housing authority to pay 70% of your mortgage and you're only paying 30% towards it for the next 15 years, I'd say you're the best deal in America. You may not have the best house. So our goal should be a livable structure or home, okay? It should not be a budget for a home where you have custom cabinets and all that. The goal is to get you housed reasonably, not to lose your mind. And many of you could actually, many apartment complexes have been turned into condos. And so you could get a reasonable condo at 100, 150,000 in many states outside the West Coast and East Coast. Now, when we are addressing states like New York and California, Jersey, Massachusetts, and all the way down the East Coast, you're probably looking 300, 400, 500,000. Most of you never pay that off in your lifetime on a fixed income. So there are some cold realities with this that we might need to change geographical location. But if that means you live in your own home and every dollar you spend paying for that home is money you can borrow against compared to you using a voucher and then paying the landlord's mortgage so he has all that equity, you see, I think it's time for many of you, once you have a voucher, had it greater than a year, to move on to home ownership. This would be foolish not to. And in 2024, we're going to be pushing this big. So you're going to be preparing for your purchase. So in order to do that, you'll need to understand the different types of mortgages. And there are many out there that work in collusion. And one of them I have most of you examine outside the mortgage aspect is working with NACA. And we're going to make a whole video about NACA. And NACA, in my opinion, if I had to support any good or great cause, it would certainly be NACA. I've seen excellent results regarding them, and I rarely sponsor or support anything outside the realm of what I do. I would for them. And so you'll be learning about home appraisals, how to apply for the loan, the underwriting process, negotiating with your bank, preparing your credit, boosting your credit. Look, a lot of you, the ideas you have about your credit, how high or low it can be, is irrelevant. It works much different than many of you imagine. Even your credit scores you get free from your bank and all that are not going to be relative to the home, because there are different types of credit scores that address things like car loans and homes that are different than those that own credit cards. Those that just strictly own a credit card and don't have a revolving account or some type of loan may have a less impact or a greater impact on your ability to negotiate rates. And so there's a lot to be considered. That's why I want to get into the fine details in the next one. I'm going to briefly stop and I'm going to skip back to our live chat here to address some of you guys. And I know I'm all over the map, but that's why this is an intro video, guys. It's designed only to be an intro. It's not designed strictly to sit in the classroom and be lectured, all right? So I need everybody to cool down. We're going to do the next video as a lecture. JW is going to say I've met Baltimore County is not over. Okay, so we adjust that one. JW, I'm attractive. Okay. Xana Blue says, not a square. Hey, man, I'm glad. I did post that today in the channel. Be here or be square, right? I'm glad you're not a square, brother. DJ goes on, really appreciate you discussing the topic realistically. I think that's what's important, is that we're talking around the coffee table rather than me sitting here and entertaining you like a Barbie doll. A lot of people are just entertainers that collect a little bit of information on Google and they come to entertain you like a children's party clown. I'm an actual consultant. I'm not here to entertain. I'm not here for your enjoyment. I'm simply here to teach if you're willing to listen. Okay. KC, I like that. That's a really, really straightforward way of saying KC, right? So the USDA loan, yes, so rural loans are excellent, actually, USDA loans. So I agree with you, Kaylee. You certainly won my attention on that one. The loan is one, right? Yes. So, a lot of what you would be considering is Fannie Mae, Fannie Mac, and different types of loans like USDA. And depending on who's elected, not elected, sometimes through pandemics and other things, there are loan down payment assistance programs that could potentially give you your first 25 grand in your house. Now, that 25 grand that goes into that house that you're going to buy, that's a massive chunk. Let's think about 25,000. That's like 2 years worth of house payments. But what it is, the more important part of it is 25 grand. That money unlocks after about 5 years, and that's money you borrow against. It's literally money in your house. Oh my God. So down payment assistance programs, we have to constantly check to see at the state and local and the federal level what's available. But yes, so down payment assistance. And there's a lot of loans for you guys that are veterans and seniors that require zero down and zero interest for quite a while. And so you could qualify in many ways. Now, I am not a broker or a loan agent, so I have to be careful in terms of how far I get into the discussion of loans and types and all that. So these are shared personal opinions. But yes, we should be able to explore a lot of different options, including NACA, for the program to purchase a home. So I think the real goal, besides you taking classes there, is meeting with the lender, getting pre-qualified. So they're going to take a rough pulling of your credit, and they're going to tell you broadly what you might be qualified for. Now, this is what we call unapproved underwriting. And unapproved underwriting is when a person takes a snapshot of your current credit position and says, hey, here is a magic number in which we would likely approve a loan to purchase a home. But it does not, that only means what they're not telling you is that's fantastic to hear, but they're going to send it to underwriting and they're going to check to see if you have all the different strings attached to that. In other words, okay, do we have an established income? Do we know they're doing well? Do they have a lot of credit card debt? Is their debt ratio good? So they're going to start verifying everything behind what they're offering you at underwriting. And that's also an opportunity for you to take and try to get a better credit mix, scores, and so on. If you are actually Googling what's the lowest score or credit score that I could have and buy a house, then you're already in trouble. Okay. Look, at minimum, I think you're going to need a 580. You don't want to walk in this deal with a 580. For most of you guys, even with simple credit advice, most of you guys could raise your low credit scores over bankruptcy, or maybe you did make some mistakes, and probably within 4 to 6 months could raise it 100. I think it's just the lack of information. And you guys paying hundreds, if not thousands, of these credit agencies is ridiculous. A lot of debts can be negotiated. How do I know? I went down with a hardcore kidney surgery where I had renal failure and I levied some major cost. And I quickly learned that these little gambits of charging people to fix your credit, once I figured out what they were doing, I immediately made a move and fired their ass and went to another dollar for the swear jar. Went and fired them, and I did just fine after that. What they're doing, it's just simply a lack of knowledge on our part. And one day I'm going to discuss that with you guys, and it won't be in a professional tone or recommendation. It'll be from private or personal experience that I share. What you can do to improve your credit that I know factually works because I literally did it. DJ, USDA offers 38. Okay, guys, I don't want y'all guys getting involved in 50-year notes, 30-year notes, and all that. For most of you, I would recommend, 15-year notes. And reason why is you get a better interest rate. Now, I understand if you want to do a 20 or a 30, I get it, right? But let's not move into lifetime loans because you're not going to own. The problem there is if there's any failure on your part, then you're going to lose everything. And I cannot give good sound judgment and set you up with something that's rigged, okay? Because we all know at this point, if life has dealt us a pretty tough hand to start with, and we're already using vouchers, we've already been through it. Some of us have been dragged to the edge a few times. where we almost lost everything or did lose everything, then I'd be a horrifyingly bad consultant if I set you up with something that wouldn't fundamentally be able to survive an event. And you have to be able to survive events, okay? Uh, Mr. and Mrs. Brignac, I'm struggling with the first name. I think it's Natasha or Natisha, if I'm correct. I've never been very good with names. So maybe one day somebody will let me know. If you receive a retirement, can you apply for the family? I'm sorry. Can you apply for a family self-sufficiency program? Or yes, guys. Pretty much, if you've got about 800 in income or more a month, any which way you get it, then I would say you've got a reasonable chance for HUD home ownership and self-sufficiency. Okay, that should be the broad thing. First of all, most of you, I would love to get qualified because you need to graduate your voucher to home ownership. That also reduces the power and control of housing authorities over you down to about 2%. Nobody wants to deal with all the attitudes, problems, and so on. And many of you have lived in neighborhoods and other areas where you're dealing with screaming children, barking dogs, maybe drug dealers, prostitutes, and different things. Nobody wants to live that way or live around that. And so this allows you an opportunity to move yourself into a home where you control the fucking lawn, you control who comes in and out of your home, and nobody's going to dictate to you when and how. That's the point. I'm trying to reconnect you guys to being in control. Vouchers help and reduce costs. Owning that home makes you whole again as a person. Okay. That way you don't have to listen to Sally and Bob at the housing authority smack their lips about whatever and have so much control. I'm trying to cut those strings of control that these housing authorities seem to have over all of y'all and put the power back in your pocket. That's what I'm trying to do. I know most of you don't see that, but that's what I'm trying to do. And there's stability there because having that home and the equity in it is also going to allow for bigger and better things for those that can use this modestly and have the fortitude to get through. DJ, let's see. JW, is there a way to find out how many PHAs offer homeowner? I have tried relentlessly now for almost 23 years to compel HUD in some way or another to issue a public list. There's not. There's none that I can find. And I challenge anybody. You see that 3-pound candy bar sitting behind me? Any person in this video that can find a list of every housing authority in America with a HUD homeownership program, and you can link it to it in one of my videos or reach out to my office, I will mail that candy bar to you fast. The 2 requirements. It's got to be a live link and the stuff's got to be modern. It can't be post dated 2001. Okay. That's the Pepsi challenge. Can't give you a jet, but I can give you a 3-pound Hershey candy bar right behind me. Anybody that can find or get me a list of every housing authority that offers the HUD homeownership program, and I will back my words. I will wrap that thing up with an address and a name on it in a live video, and I will push it right into the USPS box. Casey says, what's the goals mean for FSS? Well, I tell you what, guys, here's how we're going to handle this. The family self-sufficiency program, why don't we make that tomorrow's video? Why don't we do that? Okay. Because what I don't want to do is kind of convolute HUD homeownership and family self-sufficiency in one video, because then I'm going to confuse a lot of you. So what I'm going to do is we're going to stick with kind of the HUD homeownership today, and then we're going to have an impromptu video tomorrow, probably tomorrow afternoon, and we're going to murder family self-sufficiency. I'm going to run through that program so you understand the connections between the two. All right. So let's make that a bet, and we'll do that. I probably should have already addressed that in some other video, but we're going to bring it up to date. And that way, when we readdress for the actual bigger factual part of what HUD homeownership program is for next Tuesday, you guys that are actually interested, you'll know what you need to know about family self-sufficiency. How about we do that? Okay. Well, guys, I'm glad we had a very coffee table program as far as kind of an intro. Again, this was not supposed to be too hardcore. That way you can see whether or not at this point should if it's worth being here. Okay, if you're going to judge me on the merits of knowledge, I would judge me the next Tuesday when we get into factual basis of this. I find when you talk to people like your family members that are sitting in your own home, it works a lot better. If you're going to wear a three-piece suit, have sparkly lights, and all the other bullshit these other entertainers do when they talk about these programs, their goal is to earn copper pennies. One day they're an expert at toilet plungers, the next day they're a housing expert. But it's interesting, none of them are actually just consultants. So if you would like to take advice from an actual expert, I would say visit my channel. If you would like entertainers and toilet plungers and fidget spinner experts, there are lots of clowns making videos. I just think about it as, guys, if you're going to teach or you're going to learn, the important thing is you have to do it in such a way where you're teaching something where you don't potentially damage somebody or their life. Because the advice you give, people take things so to heart these days. And you give people advice about vouchers and housing, and you go and say something that isn't true, or you're just ignorant, and you're running your mouth in YouTube so you could make pennies, nickels, and dimes to keep your light bill on at your apartment, and you're pretending to be a consultant. And the problem is you can destroy people's lives with that because people are going to believe you. They're going to think you're some type of authority. And as far as I know, there are no consultants outside of me or myself on YouTube that I can verify. None. These other people I don't know. But some of them have some experience flipping houses, flipping socks, selling at the flea market, and today they're working a new gambit. But the reality is you need to be careful because the advice, people take advice seriously, and nobody wants to make somebody homeless. All right, Dews, good afternoon and welcome to the channel. 27 degrees, clouds, hello. 27 degrees. Well, hell, you live in Minnesota? Now, yesterday it was about 15 degrees here with a wind chill. Today it's 65. Welcome to the state of Texas. We had a really cool snap, right? So, guys, if we have the right amount of money, we have a voucher. We're potentially in a self-sufficiency program. We're prepared to take classes at the Housing Authority. We're prepared to take classes for the lender. We're willing to work with several parties, including that of one, the Housing Authority is your first party. Number two, it would be really smart for those of you who want to expedite your process and not learn the hard way, work with a consultant like myself. Third, you're working with a lender and an underwriter. And fourth, you're going to be working with a broker or real estate agent. So it's one big party. Consultant can help you manage the party, trust me. So the main thing is all these people put together need to cooperate on understanding. What you're going to find very quickly is one hand doesn't know what the other hand does. The housing authority don't give a damn about the real estate agent. The broker don't know what the loan agent is doing. The loan agent don't know what the housing authority is doing. And so you're going to see that part of your job is to manage the party. That's right. Not only do you have the party give out free champagne, but you got to manage all these people and you don't know shit yourself, right? So it gets interesting, right? So that's what I tell you guys. This is not for the faint of heart. Out of 100 people that contact my office, only sufficiently 4% have both the patience and the fortitude and the ability to carry through it. If you're looking for the fast and easy solution, it isn't going to be this. If you're serious about this and you can keep your shit together and you're willing to listen, learn, and not complain about everything, and oh my God, it takes so long, then you're going to do well with this. I find that people that are older do much better because they wake up early in the morning. There's not a lot happening. So they're super focused on this and they're persistent. They don't take no for an answer. Mama, young adults, the middle-aged to young, oh my God, you guys, sometimes you're not there yet, but some of you are. But yep, it's if you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound, and this is not an easy system. And you don't need to know everything to get through it, but you need to know enough so you don't throw your hands up and swear, right? Then you'd be walking around like me with a swear jar all day. Some things are hard to get out that old trailer park. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I've enjoyed having y'all today. I'm glad that we were able to do a short or introductory video. We're going to address this again next week. We're going to do all the facts of it. And for those interested in navigating this easier or having a private learning privately, you can reach out to our office. We'll be glad to discuss the program in its entirety in a more comfortable pace. We're going to go ahead and pair this, and I want to introduce you to one of my other office managers. As you can see, he's a little impatient right now. Papas. Now, you guys know that I rescue cats, and many of which tend to pop in the videos. This is Mr. Papas. He says that you guys have taken too much of his time and that he needs a treat. He's trying to have lunch, and y'all messing with it. So one thing I'll bring up before we close out our video, we offer memberships in the channel for $1 or $2. If you do purchase a membership, you get two things. One, a really neat badge when you're chatting with us in this channel. And the second thing is whatever dollars you spend are usually spent on the cats that I rescue, many of which have been abused or abandoned. I think at present we have about 17, including 2 new ones. So if you're considering membership, go to the join button in our channel. And people like Papa will thank you. Again, I want to make it clear, you don't have to spend your hard-earned money taking care of my cats. That's my responsibility. This is just for those of you that enjoy the content we make for free, right? And want to show your appreciation in a different way. And certainly the beneficiary of that would be my pets as we give them home. And today is Grandma Gracie, my oldest cat. She's now 25 years old. I'll never be able to pick her up because I'd be shredded cheese in this video, but I'll make an effort to show you Grandma Gracie. She's a lovely old cat that was owner threw cooking oil on her and broke her back. You see the depravity of humans can reach levels that aren't even imaginable. So those memberships do matter. It won't fix what happened to her, and I don't want anybody to feel guilty or sad about that. She's recovered, long recovered. But you see, it's important I don't just house people, but I house cats too. So if you've got a pulse, I'm willing to help you get housing, right? All right, guys. So again, I've enjoyed having y'all, and we're going to do a impromptu video tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central Standard Texas time, and it'll be for the AMP self-sufficiency program. And maybe one of my other kikis or kittens or cats will be in the video impromptu as well, right? All right. Bye-bye for now.